welcome to my channel where we question everything. Today's topic is my thoughts, and I'm going to talk, well, has FIFA become a club soccer event? Now it goes a little bit further than this, but I will get to it just now. I just want to say that this playlist of my thoughts usually are more of a philosophical nature. And usually when I discuss certain ideas and principles and views that I have, and are not always related to the subject, like in this case, FIFA per se. So, and sometimes, unfortunately, I have this habit of telling a story from far, far away and then finally upgrading to the point of interest. So if you want to listen, you have to be a little bit patient until I get to the punchline, which is usually at the end of the discussion. But in any case, so let's start. So let's start from the far point of the narrative of the story. Human nature basically, or nature per se, is a competitive environment where there's a constant struggle to survive and for resources and for food and all the other stuff that goes with it. So it doesn't matter in what species you look at, it's usually a fight for those resources. You will find it in normal insects, you will find it in animals, and you even can find it in a human being. And yes, you might argue, but the human is an animal who has become civilized and advanced to a certain degree. But we are still, in principle, animals. And if you want to deny it, then unfortunately you have to deny DNA and evolution as well. So let's look at human being as an animal. Well, that is one of the reasons why we are considered as being aggressive. And in the old times, we had tribes. I'm talking about the caveman era. And the people at that stage, or Neanderthals, or whatever you want to call them, Homo sapiens and so on, even baboons and gorillas and so on, we all live basically in a group. And a group gives us security, and it's a family, and we work together in order to survive. And then we inhabit a certain part of the landscape, and then there's another group, a tribe, that is a couple of kilometers far away. And if our fields of where we collect our resources overlap, then there's usually a war. And that is one of the inherent characteristics of the human being. But not only to the human being, to animals as well. But we're not talking about animals, we're talking about human beings. And basically, then we have to fight, and either we kill the opponent and then take over his resources and land, and then expand and grow our own family, and usually come in and so forth. And then we build bigger communities, and we build later on cities, towns, and then cities, and then nations, and then countries. And that is how the human being more or less developed. But it was always accompanied by wars of conquest, in order to submit your enemy, who usually has resources that you want, or you have resources that that person wants, and it's all about resources, staying alive, surviving. That is basically the drive that drives us to war. Unfortunately, human beings have become a little bit of more intelligent, and now have other motives as well of creating wars, like ideological wars, religious wars, wars based on pure principle or hatred or whatever. But originally it was a matter of disputing the available resources. That is the fundamental underlying reason why we make war. And so we have grace. And in order to make war, we have, as in the old days, we have created a form of nationality or feeling of nationality, patriotism, which is all like woke, not woke items, but indoctrinated ideas. We have glorified the military in terms of their beautiful uniforms. We have elevated soldiers in terms of their heroism and their sacrifices and medals for their sacrifices. But all of this is like basically a form of bullshitting people into fighting and dying for a certain cause. And then we also have a national anthem, and then we have a national flag, and now we have an identity. And that identity is usually associated with a certain race or culture, or how would you say that if you are in German, then the German people have formed a grouping as the Germans, and the English have formed in English culture, or I'm not sure what type of name I would use it, but the bottom line is that you now can distinguish between Germans, French, Sweden guys, Norwegians, Denmark, British people, Italians, Spaniards, and so on. So we all have a national identity. Yeah, that's the word. We have a national identity. And it is important to maintain that, because then you have pride and in your country, and you belong to somewhere. And you come from a certain gene pool, and basically that is what it is. Now, in the old days, because humans are aggressive and they are usually competing, the Western, more civilized world has created sports as a replacement, whether you want to like it or not. But sport is a very, very important part of our modern civilization. And the reason why that is to deflect our aggressive tendencies away from making wars and spend all our aggressive behavior in the sports. Now, sports is not only driven on national level, it's also on club level and school level, etc., etc. So it has become an integral part of our upbringings and propaganda and a way of preventing wars. So what you then do is you have a couple of teams or sportsmen, and they get into the ring, just like gladiators in the old days, and they represent your nation and your identity, and they're going to compete on behalf of you and your national identity. That is what it's all about. And well, like I said, it comes from school years upwards into your teenage, into your youth, into club sports, and then also on television we have a lot of sport events. And basically, that's why we are not that aggressive. We are a lot more passive. It's like putting a calming effect on the men. But sometimes we still have excess aggressive, and that's when we have the soccer hooligans that try to fight and so on, or that fight outside the clubs. And well, that's regrettable, but it's a typical sign of the psychic of modern man. But the point I'm trying to make, and well, then you can see, just before I start, again, a little bit backwards, we have our English and soccer leagues, and we have our Italian soccer leagues, and French and Europe and Germany and so on. So we have all clubs, which is big money-making machines. But what they do is they take any good player and they buy him or from another club, or they scout him and so on, and then they bring into the system, and then they have top-level players. But these players come from any nationality, which is fine. That's not a problem. And then you have your club, because the club is the emblem, and it's only a club. You support a specific club. You don't support a specific nationality. And therefore you can have black players, Indian players, Chinese players, or white players. It doesn't really matter. As long as they are well skilled. And when you support that club, you know you are supporting the club. But now we have national sports and national teams. And now it becomes a totally different ballgame. You see, what you want to do is when you say, I'm a German and I support the German team, then I'm supporting the German gene pool and the German culture and a German nationality, which has a history and a German history. If I'm a French supporter, I support France and I support the French gene pool, their culture, and their flag and the anthem and everything that goes with it. And so we can talk about the British and the English people as well. You have our national identity. And that completely is different from any club, like a soccer club or soccer or cricket, club cricket and so on. Here we focus on nationality. And if you say you want to compete French against, say, the Germans, then it doesn't help that if you take a black player, just as an example, a black player from Nigeria who has excellent skills in the German team. Because if he's not a German, he's not representative of the German culture and gene pool and nation. And even if you win and Germany then wins France, then Germany can never claim that Germany conquered France or is a better team or is a better race or a better culture or gene pool. It doesn't happen because they have used, they can even use a Spaniard. They can use a South American player. Doesn't really matter what the color of your skin is. That's not important. Important is that he's not a German. And now we have the French. And you look at the French team at the FIFA World Cup, and you don't say that's a French team. You say it's a French African team. That is what you say. So when France competes against England, it's not France that's competing against England. It's Africa that is competing against England. And if the French would win that soccer game, then it hasn't France that beat England. It's Africa that beat England. Do you understand the concept here? It's not about, it's the gene pool and the culture and what the culture has achieved, so your national identity. And if you compete, doesn't matter what sport, you compete under the national flag or the national anthem, then you represent the national interest and the national gene pool in every culture and history and everything that goes with it. And if you are from Spain or South America or Africa or China or wherever, and you play in the European Cup or say Germany or France, then you pollute the team, and you are only there about your skills, which are highly respected, which I don't doubt about it. That's not the argument. But then you cannot say that Germany won France. It's unfortunately like it is. It is not the skills of the German genes or their education that has made that player that good. It's a different gene pool and a different culture that made that guy good. If Germans can't run fast in the 100 in athletics, then they're not running fast. Then that is a lacking of their character or their culture or their gene pools. They just can't do it. So they're not good in it. But now taking a fast black player from Africa who is physically much more developed than a German, that's not in German, that's in Africa. So you're using a different, I'm going to be a different species, that's a wrong word, but how else am I supposed to give it a name or a concept? That is basically what it's all about. And if you look at the FIFA World Cup now, you don't see pure teams, national teams, UC mixed teams. Now there's a story about that, why it is. Well, with all the lot of integrations that is happening over the years in Europe and so on, there are a lot of Africans that have migrated to Europe and settled in Germany, probably married a German male or female, got kids, but the kids are still colored, if you want to call it. Some of them have been naturalized. That's happening. So how do you decide, basically, what is a German gene pool? When can you represent the German national team? Doesn't matter what sport. Well, if you was naturalized, then you were not born in Germany. That's also right. Now, if you haven't been born in Germany, you are naturally, by law, a German citizen. But still, you are not the German pool. And if your father has married a German woman and you are the son and so on, then you're still not a German gene pool. Because if you have a color, then your African genes are dominant. And if your skills come from your African father and your African nation and your African culture, which is not the German one. So you are not representing Germany. So my suggestion is that anybody that wants to represent a German, a national team, just remember, I'm using Germany as just an example. You can do it for the English and French as well. It doesn't really matter. It's just the concept. So in my argument that if you really want to solve that type of problem, then you should say that any person that has the national blood being twice diffused, that means your granddad should have at least married a German nationality, and then your grandmother or grandfather is already a mixed race, and if they now then marry another German, then, well, percentage-wise, maybe it's a good fit, and you will carry more German genes than your original culture. Because what also happens is that, I mean, the French migrate to Germany, and then they grow up and have children there because they're all integrated. And they're all white, so you don't see the difference. But still, you have to go back then in your heritage and say, no, 2 generations. Then you can play for the national team. And this disappoints me, actually, because I see on the German team, there are 3 black players. They are good players, make no mistake, but that's not the point. The point is that is not a German national team. It is a German mixed team. There are genes in there that do not represent the majority of the German genes, like the French. How many black people are they? I know France has a lot of black people. Got no problem with that. That's not the point. But you cannot tell me that those are French. They have not fought in the French Revolution. They have not fought under Napoleon. They have not built up the country to what France is today. So basically, these people are reaping the benefits of years and hundreds of years of culture and development. Anyways, that's my story for today. If you like, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, spread the links. And remember, there are a lot of other playlists that are more focused. Cheers, until next time.